Hi, this is Dr. Bob with Carolina Value Pet Care. Thanks for joining us today. And we're continuing a dialogue or discussion a little about dog boarding. So Shelly's going to be leading into some questions and hopefully give you some more things to think about if you need to board your dog.
Dr. Bob, what are some reasons not to board my dog when going away?
Probably the primary reasons would be you have to consider the situation with your dog. If they are high medical need, if you don't think there is appropriate or somebody is going to be able to take care of the dog in the way that you think is going to be in the best interest of your dog. Because again, if you have a dog with special needs, then understand that the dog boarding facilities, a lot of the individuals are not going to be trained to be able to handle some of the situations that might be the situation with your particular pet. So keep that in consideration. Um, some other reasons would be if you have a dog that is very aggressive and may not do well with the handlers, because obviously they have to be able to sorry about that, handle your dog to be able to take them outside, to be able to, or maybe have to avoid interaction with other dogs. Also have to consider if your dog is a very high anxiety dog, and we'll talk more about that in another moment. But so there can be some other reasons why you may not find it appropriate to be able to board your dog. So I'm always going to circle back to I definitely encourage you if you need to leave town, if you need to leave your dog with someone or at a boarding facility, try always to be able to see if you can get an in-house a pet sitter, or if you can have somebody who's where you can take your pet to somebody else's house. So if you can get more in a in-home environment, that's always going to be less stressful and a better situation for everybody.
Will my dog be sad when I board them?
Depends on the breed. If you got a goofy golden retriever, probably not. They're probably going to be happy to make new friends. But yeah, in all honesty, yeah, there's going to be a degree of anxiety with every dog that's going to be out of their comfort zone, out of their element, around strangers. But there are those occasional dogs who do well in any kind of situation. So that is one thing you are going to have to give some consideration to if you have a high anxiety dog or one that has separation issues from you. Yeah, definitely need to be prepared to deal with that.
What do I do about dog boarding if my dog has anxiety?
So good question. So let's dig into it a little bit. So if your dog does have anxiety, it certainly depends on the degree of anxiety in certain situations. If it's quite profound, um, there are medications that veterinarians can prescribe, again by prescription, that can prescribe for your pet to help reduce the anxiety. Now, if you're going to do something of that nature, my recommendation is start giving the medication prior to going to the boarding facility. Don't wait till the day of. You actually want to have a kind of a loading period of a couple of days or 3 or 4 days, depending on the medication. That's a discussion you'd have with your full service veterinarian to help reduce the anxiety. There can be other ways of trying to address that. You can actually, depending on the boarding facility, they might be able to allow you to go into the facility with your dog. So they can start making that association. You're with them and you can be there to kind of support them with their anxiety. Um, Again, if the dog isn't severely um, have anxiety issues, that might be a situation where you can try things like there is a probiotic called Calming Care that you can actually add to the food. Again, I would do it well before the visit. There's another medication called L-theanine that you can get. And I do have a handout on these medications with dosages, so you can certainly look at that. CBD can also be used. I'm probably going to get canceled for saying that, but yes, you can try CBD. It definitely does have a tremendous benefit for a lot of dogs for anxiety. A lot of research is going into dosing for that, but that's another consideration as well.
What will the boarding facility do in case of an emergency?
So, I can only speak for North Carolina. I can't speak for other locations or other states, but at least in North Carolina, each boarding facility actually has an annual inspection. Obviously, they're checking for things like cleanliness and to make sure that there's exits and that the equipment is secure. That there's fresh food, fresh water available for the dogs at all times. So actually, of course, and those inspectors take their job very seriously because obviously the welfare of your pets is really at stake. Um, So one of the considerations with an emergency is every veterinary or every boarding facility will have a resource veterinarian, a source of a local veterinarian where there's an emergency contact. So in the event of an emergency, and again, every clinic does this or every facility does it differently, but typically they will alert the pet parent that there is an emergency, and of course, in which case they will take the pet to that emergency clinic. Some boarding facilities will actually, when you bring your dog in, they want to know who your full service veterinarian is, and if that full service veterinarian does provide emergency care during operational hours. And if they do, then if there is an emergency during office hours, then they can take your dog to that particular clinic. There are after hours veterinary clinics in many, obviously not every town, but in many towns, and sort of for the weekend situations when your regular veterinarian's closed, they can always take it to an after hours emergency clinic if need be.
What questions should I be asking a boarding facility?
So the main questions would be basic stuff. The things that you would want to know: what's going to be in the best interest of your pet? What's going to be sort of a welfare situation? How much time are they going to be going outside? Do you need to be bringing your food? Can I bring my pet's doggy bed or a blanket of some sort, to chew toys? Sometimes they don't want you to because they're concerned that they might chew the blanket because of anxiety, and that could create some intestinal issues. So again, those are discussions you need to have. But more importantly, medications. What medications does your pet need? And don't forget to bring your medications if your dog needs to be medicated in your absence. And again, how often, or is somebody there on premises all the time, or just during certain hours of the day? How are they going to deal with emergencies, which we just discussed? So these are the sort of things you need to start thinking about if you need to be boarding your dog. So hopefully that'll give you some insights, some other things to think about if you need a board. But again, I'll always encourage you, if you can get a pet sitter, keep your dog in your house at home or your cat at home, all the better, all the time. Hope that helps. Thanks.